Bring us back to the beginning. So I know you're an athlete, started off at football. High school, you had a big injury. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, so, I could literally throw a football before I could walk. So my dad used to throw the football into the crib, and then I would throw it out even before I could walk. So it was like my dad played college football, and if you grow up in Alabama and your dad plays football, you're playing football. It's like one of those things. So, you go through that process, you play Little League, and then you work your way up. And then when I was in high school, I was, one of the top high school players. And my junior year was just a real struggle with back pain and like severe back pain. So after the games, I used to have this jacked up Toyota Tacoma truck, with the 15s in the back. Where I don't know if y'all know about how we did it in Alabama, but and I could barely get in my truck after games, and I would sit there and I would be the last person in the parking lot. So imagine high school parking lot, no one around, and I'm struggling just to go home. And so finally I just couldn't take it anymore, and we went to a bone specialist. They told me it was fractured. So I had played 9 games with a broken back.
Wow.
And so then, they tell you you're never going to play again, you're never going to be the same again. And I just refused to accept that. So I went to a chiropractor. He told me to take these pills. I think they were called Bone Factor 1, but basically it's like a combination of calcium, magnesium, zinc, and some other stuff.
Yeah.
And he was like, just take them like M&Ms. And I was just taking them. And then he said, get as flexible as possible. So at the time I was like 220, and I just went the opposite way. I just got completely shredded, could do the splits. I was like 205. Wow. All the pain went away. Came into that year and became the defensive player of the year in Alabama. Got like a ton of scholarship offers from Alabama, Florida State, Clemson, but Auburn, it was like, you got to go to Auburn. So I actually ended up being a preferred walk-on. So basically that you go in with the scholarship players, but you're a walk-on. You have to earn your scholarship. Right. So I did that. I earned my scholarship. And then, had a fantastic early on career. I was back up to Tikio Spikes, who was, he'll be a future Hall of Famer. And everything was going great. I was like 240 pounds, and going into after Tikio left for the pros, was going to be the starter, and then broke my back again.
Oh.
And this time it was devastating, because it's you overcome it, and then you get ready to actually start for an SEC team, and you have aspirations of being in the NFL and all that, and so that came crumbling down. And I had a decision to make. They were like, you can take a medical hardship, finish out your get your degree, or at the time I actually could have transferred and tried to like rehab back and whatever. And at the time, going through that and the pain that I was in, I just took the medical hardship, and I really leaned into exercise science and health promotions and kinesiology. And I really wanted to figure out why it happened. Like, why did I have a hairline fracture, being as physically, like I was a specimen, 22-inch neck, running a 4.6. I mean, I was a specimen. And so why did I look like Tarzan, but, felt like Jane sometimes, with this pain? So it was very, very important for me to figure out if it could be done differently. And I started early on. As soon as just you start to gain this knowledge of exercise science and how the body works, it was very evident that I was lifting wrong, I was doing things wrong, and I'm being taught by high school strength coaches, by college strength coaches. And so I just immediately just started to implement that with some of the guys on the football team. And then by the time I was a senior at Auburn, I had like 16 to 18 guys training with me at the local Gold's Gym instead of training with a strength coach.
Oh, wow. And
then a light bulb kind of started to go off too, is that I just had this knack of leading, and these are men like 6'5", 300 pounds, college football. I don't know if y'all been around college football players, but they're huge.
Big boys.
But they listened to me, and they respected me, and it was just, and it wasn't that I did anything I didn't feel like at the time, but I led by example, and I cared a lot, and so started doing that. It's a long story, so I don't know how much you want to know, but so that's really the college aspect. Then I ended up going to Samford University in Birmingham, Alabama, to be a strength and conditioning coach. So ironically, the strength and conditioning coach at the time was my personal trainer when I was in the 7th grade. His name was Tommy Rowland. I believe he's still at Samford University. Great guy, taught me a lot. And he basically took me under his wing, and we trained the football team, the tennis team, and the baseball team, for Samford. And then I started personal training on the side at a place called AC Fitness, which is kind of like a Gold's Gym, a traditional gym. Started training some professional wrestlers, some athletes, regular people, housewives, what have you. And then a buddy of mine called me. He was a model here in Miami, really good-looking black guy, super tall, lean, on all the covers in the magazines, doing his thing as a model. And he was from Birmingham too. Okay. And he calls me up. And he's like, "Hey, if you shave your head," and this is when I had nice blonde locks, right? I had wavy, nice blonde locks, back in the day. But he was like, "I can get you probably a job on Bad Boys 2 as a stunt double, body double." He's like, "You look just like the character they're trying to play." So I shaved my head, I kid you not, like 2 hours later. And I think at the time it had to have been like a Polaroid or something. I don't think we even had the special.
You were that motivated to be on the movie? Like, what
was it to come to Miami?
What was the motivation?
So I think that I have always been one to jump at opportunity. And I think I've always been one to see opportunity. And so for me, it was a phone call of opportunity. It was a phone call of like seeing someone that took a chance, left Alabama, went down to Miami, is successful as a model. I'd been staying in touch with him. So getting that call was like, it felt purposeful. It felt like it was a moment to just say yes. Okay. And so, I got the job. I packed up my Nissan stick shift Maxima with cloth interior and, drove all the way down to Miami. It was like 14 hours or whatever, and or maybe not that long, but it was over 10 hours. And I had $2,000 cash to my name. No money in the bank, no nothing. I was 20 something, in my 20s. And I'll never forget like seeing the Miami Beach sign and getting on Euclid, and my car was like Euclid's terrible roads and like bouncing, and then walking in his apartment. His apartment was like this. Like his apartment was like the three of us. It was a tiny studio apartment. And mind you, he's 6'4", 220 pounds too. So I walked in, I was like, "Oh my God, this is gonna be weird." and it was weird for sure. And got that job. So it was paying like $330 a day. So obviously, that's not that great. So I wanted to have a backup because I knew the movie was only shooting for about 3 months. So he took me to Crunch Gym. And at the time, Crunch was like where everybody trained. Mm-hmm. Crunch was 13th in Washington, but it not like it is now. Like Crunch was.
No, it was the old Crunch. It was a much more exclusive boutique.
Exactly. And so, Beyonce, Eminem, 50 Cent, Madonna, like everybody worked out there, and it was the place to work out. So I walked in. I'll never forget this little gay guy, Scott Hauser. He sees me, he's like, "Oh my gosh," like that. And I was like, "What's up, man?" And introduced myself, and he's like, "You're hired."